Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the June 3rd meeting of your Board of Commissioners. Tonight, we will have our invocation by Pastor Jerry Chappell of Cornerstone Baptist in Eden, or Lighthouse Baptist, I should say, right, Reverend? And so I'll ask everyone to stand for the invocation if you're able to, and remain standing for the pledge. Hold on just one second, Reverend. Thank you, Mr. Manager. Come right on.
All right, let's pray. Heavenly Father, Lord, I do want to thank you just for the privilege for us to be able to meet, Lord, and to have you be part of this council meeting tonight, Lord. We ask that you'll please just be here, Lord. Give wisdom to those that are making decisions, and Lord, that we would be making the correct decisions for the community, for the people. Lord, I ask that you would be in the midst of us, as you say that where two or three are gathered in your name, Lord, there you are in the midst. And here we are gathered, and we're putting you first. Lord, I ask that you would help not just the city council, but all people who are here to put you first in all conversation and all attitudes, and just all questions, all speaking, Lord, that they would put you first in their questions and in their answers. Lord, help calm heads to prevail always, and that you would move in, Lord, and just give wisdom where wisdom needs to be, and Lord, that we would be able to honor you in everything that we do. The council would be able to honor you as they lead people, Lord, to move our city in the right direction and our communities. Lord, I ask that the community that's here, that they would be respectful, and they would honor you as well, and Lord, that you would just give us a great meeting today, and the decisions that are made will ultimately be what you would have for us, Lord. We do love you, thank you, and praise you. We ask all these things in your name, Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Please remain standing. Thank you, Pastor Jerry Chappell. As we move to our Pledge of Allegiance tonight, that will be delivered by Sammy Johannesman. He's an 8th grader at Rockingham County Middle School, and he was selected by the band director there as the most accomplished 8th grade saxophone or musician this year. So thank you for being with us tonight.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Johannesman. Be seated. The next item on our agenda is a presentation by Lance Metzler.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chair, if you could, with you and the rest of the commissioners, join me down front, and also ask Ms. Farrell and her family to join us up front. And I'll read the resolution. Honor and privilege for me to be able to read this resolution for Ms. Felissa Farrell. Resolution recognizing Felissa Farrell for her dedicated service to Rockingham County. Whereas Felissa Farrell, originally from the Buffalo, New York area, attended the State University of New York in Brockport, later moving to Rockingham County, where she has lived for 29 years. And whereas in 1996, she began working for Rockingham County as a substance abuse counselor at the Department of Mental Health, later obtaining her master's in social work from the University of Chapel Hill in 2002. And whereas Felissa Farrell's diverse work experience has included working as a licensed therapist and adjunct professor with the UNCG Department of Social Work, with the North Carolina Division of Mental Health, Developmental Disabilities and Substance Abuse Services, Adult Services Supervisor and Manager, as a licensed clinical social worker, a certified social worker in gerontology, and as a certified clinical alcohol, tobacco, and other drug social worker. And whereas Felissa Farrell became Director of the Department of Social Services on April the 1st, 2016, and July 1st the same year also became the Director of Health and Human Services. And whereas Felissa Farrell was named the 23-24 Director of the Year by the North Carolina Association of County Directors of Social Services, with the press release stating that her dedication and accomplishments, competencies, and passion of every aspect of social services profession made her most deserving of this award. And whereas Felissa Farrell has been described as a strong advocate for children in foster care and for disabled adults experiencing guardianship, with her advocating for change when gaps and obstacles are identified, and has recently worked with representatives in North Carolina General Assembly regarding the foster care crisis in our state. Now therefore be it resolved by the Rockingham County Board of Commissioners that Felissa Farrell is honored for her 28 years of faithful and exemplary service to Rockingham County and her advocacy for those who cannot advocate for themselves. This day, and this was approved at the last meeting, this day, the 20th day of May, 2024.
Congratulations to you. We hate to see you retire, but we understand.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, everyone. My name is Felissa Farrell. I know some of you are here. I would like to say thank you to the citizens of Rockingham County to allow me to serve you all of these years. It was a hard decision for me to retire, but another opportunity became available. But the good news is I will still be serving this community and this county, just in a different role. I would also like to recognize my staff, if they would please stand in the back, all of you, including our board chairperson. I would like to say thank you to the leadership here at Health and Human Services and to all of the staff, because without them, the work could not be done. It is a privilege and an honor to work with them in every single day that I was able to do so. I would also like to thank county administration and the county commissioners for allowing me to be in this role all these years. And I look forward to being involved in the community in my future endeavors. Thank you.
Thank you. We wish you well. Very good. Thank you. We appreciate you.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Kirsten, you're up. The next item on our agenda is recognition. Kirsten Tucker, the County Management Fellow, will make this presentation.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for all being here tonight. I am thrilled to recognize our first ever graduates of the newly revamped Rockingham County Citizens Academy. As you may recall, Rockingham County previously offered a Citizens Academy for several years. Unfortunately, like many great programs, it was unable to withstand the strains of the COVID pandemic. Recognizing the importance of citizen engagement, the Board of Commissioners and county leadership made it a priority to reinvigorate the program. They entrusted me as the Lead for North Carolina Fellow with the task of reestablishing this vital program in a new and updated way. This program is designed to engage and educate citizens on the inner workings of Rockingham County government through presentations, activities, and tours. Over the last 10 weeks, thank you. Over the last 10 weeks, these participants have spent 3 hours each week after work to learn about our departments, their services and programs, and the impact of their efforts. To graduate, participants had to attend at least 7 of the 10 sessions. Graduates, would you like to join me?
Went to one of the 10.
To you guys, your dedication and enthusiasm has been inspiring. Over the past few weeks, you've delved into our local government's workings, asked insightful questions, and engaged in meaningful and very entertaining discussions. Your commitment to understanding and improving our community is truly commendable. I couldn't think of a better group to start this out. Tonight, we celebrate not just the completion of a program, but the beginning of a more informed, engaged, and connected community. Congratulations to all of our graduates for their achievement, and thank you for your enthusiasm and commitment to the Rockingham County community. I also want to extend my gratitude to the people behind the scenes that made this program possible. Specifically, I'd like to thank the Board of Commissioners and County Manager Lance Metzler for the opportunity and vision for the Citizens Academy, Assistant County Manager Derek Southern for continued support and guidance, and Jennifer Woods and Christy Burgess for being a helping hand when I need it. Participants, you will collect your certificates as I call your name. Brent Epling. Tanya Sullivan. Christy Tucker. Lena Wilder. And Terica Jones-Williams. And shout out to Morgan Peterson, who could not make it tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. It was a pleasure meeting you. You're right. Thank you.
Come on.
Next item on our agenda is the approval of the June 3rd agenda. Gentlemen, do we have a motion to approve, or are there any changes?
Moved as presented.
Very good. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. We have an approved agenda. The next item is our consent agenda. Now, items on the consent agenda are non-controversial items. However, if anyone has questions about the items on that agenda, please contact Lance Metzler, our county manager. With that, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented? Motion. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Very good. Thank you, gentlemen. With that, we'll move to public comment. And we have several. And your Commissioner Berg, I'll let you speak here to this for just a second.
I just wanted to say that I understand a number of people may be here pertaining to South End School. You're certainly welcome to speak tonight. But I will say that the school system was organizing 3 community meetings. I believe they've had one of those. I believe another one was originally scheduled for this evening. I have no idea why that was canceled, and I don't know when the other one was scheduled for. We do have 2 school board members here and 3 school board members here. Okay, I've seen 2. I'm not sure where the third one is sitting, but okay, Ms. Austin is also here. They may be able to tell you when those community meetings may be rescheduled or when they're scheduled for. We will get information from the school system pertaining to what they are looking at. They're still gathering information. So, I mean, that's kind of where we are in the whole process.
Thank you, Commissioner Berger. With that, since we have some folks signed up to speak tonight, I'll ask our county manager to go over the protocol tonight for public comment. Mr. Manager?
Sure, Mr. Chair. The public comment period shall be for the purpose of allowing members of the public to present any matter pertaining to county business or items on the Board of Commissioners' agenda. Remarks shall be addressed directly to the Board of Commissioners and not to staff, the audience, or media. The chairperson shall open the public comment period. Any speaker who wishes to speak shall approach the podium and not speak from his or her seat. Each speaker shall clearly state his or her name and physical address when he or she approaches the podium. Each person shall be allotted 3 minutes. Citizens will be allowed to yield their time on a specific topic by utilizing one more attendee's time. This will allow no more than 6 minutes. The total amount of time allotted for public comment period is 30 minutes. Your time will be displayed on the monitor in front of you. The time clock will start with 3 minutes, and unless yielded time to 6 minutes, you will hear a beep at 1 minute to alert you to wrap up your comments. If you are to yield your time or time is yielded to you, then please let the chairman know in advance. Speakers appearing before the Board of Commissioners will not be allowed to campaign for public office, promote private business ventures, or use language of a personal nature which insults or demeans any person or which, when directed at a public official, is not related to his or her official duties. The Board of Commissioners may accept written comments in lieu of oral comments. Written statements can be delivered to the county manager's office. Mr. Chair?
Thank you, Mr. Manager. With that, the first person signed up to speak tonight is Todd Hoover. Please make your way to the podium. Give us your name and address, please, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Good evening. Name is Todd Hoover, 326 Island Drive in Madison. All right. Recent retiree, was looking to do the next chapter in my life and start a new business, something I've always wanted to do, be an entrepreneur, right? My wife helped me out quite a bit and said, hey, how about find something that people like to do, like have a family fun center, right? Put a small bowling alley in, small arcade, place you can take your kids for birthdays, for parties, as that seems to be lacking in the area. Not a lot of things like that to do. Got started, got looking for a building, found one about 3,500 square feet. It was a workout facility before. Curves, if everybody knows where that's at in Mayodan, right? They're in the Mayodan shopping mall area, right there. Looked at what I had to do. Need to put a couple of non-load bearing partitions in, something simple. Put a second bathroom in, make it easier for the public. And that's it. No change to the structure, floor, ceiling, sidewalls, no electric changes, those types of things. Had the inspector in, chief inspector. They said, hey, send me a drawing. It sounds easy. It's what we've been doing for years. When I went back to actually get the permit, they said I had to submit a Schedule B, which is something a little different. In order to get a permit, I have to hire an architect. I have to hire a plumbing engineer. That's not a plumber, that's a plumbing engineer to draw it out for the plumber then to go do. Had to get an electrical engineer. It's not the electrician, that's an electrical engineer to draw it out just for the electrician to do their job. So essentially what's happened is it has doubled my startup costs. Now for small businesses, if it's $500, I understand. This is more like $20,000 going to charge me for a 3,500 square foot place. Now, and it seems like it's not a change to the rule, it's a change in the application. Where 2 or 3 months ago it was not applied this way, now it's being applied this way. And if you think of long-term for small businesses, folks like me, it's really going to hurt our ability to come and start and be entrepreneurs and start to bring things to the community. The price of capital is pretty high. And if you're starting any kind of orientation, any kind of new business, that's one of the biggest things you got to consider. If the price to start a business in Rockingham County is the same as it is for Guilford, it's a strong desire to start a business in Guilford and not here, where you can charge a little more of a premium, you have a better population density. It's going to kill the small businesses here. And I don't know if you guys are aware of that. I don't know if it's a change in the policy. I think it's a change in the application. And you might want to take a look at it because it will have far-reaching detrimental effects to the county if that's the price of admission for a 3,500 square foot arcade games, 2 small bowling lanes, and a golf simulator. That's what I'm trying to do. So, thank you very much.
Let's do.
Go ahead.
I think it's,
Is that Mayodan? Is that Mayodan?
Yes, the site is in Mayodan, the Mayodan Shopping Mall.
Is it in the city limits?
Where Lot 2540 used to be.
The county administers it.
Okay.
Live in Mayodan.
But it's based on their rules.
but don't we do?
Sir, I mean, believe, if we, Mr. Attorney. Yes, sir. Although some of the application goes through the county, that is something that the town has elected to submit to the county to apply the town rules. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So I believe you need to be at City Hall.
I already have been with Mayodan, I've addressed it with the commissioners, everything is fine. They're happy, they're willing, they're ecstatic to be coming in.
I'll check.
The holdup is here in the county,
Okay.
in the permitting for the plumbing, the electrical, and all those small things that need done.
So the Schedule B is actually required by state law.
Appendix B.
It's Appendix B is what it is. But you don't have to get an engineer to fill that out. In fact, if you'll call me or call the office downstairs, you can get help with that. I've had to do that myself on very small projects. You're right, it's ridiculous for you to have to go through that. So let's see if we can't do something to help you out and get you moving. We want to see you succeed at this. Call me. My Don Powell, my number's on the county's website. I'll help walk you through what you can do to get that done. You're quite welcome.
Next item on our list is John Hudson. Please make your way. Give us your name and address, sir.
John Hudson, 413 South 2nd Avenue. I'm actually the property manager of the facility. But it seems like Mr. Powell, your help, that could resolve the issue. But I wanted to address a few things that came out on social media about this, because there's a lot of misconceptions as to who's at fault. And I wanted to clear with the people that this is not an issue with the town. The town had approved it, as he said. And also, the county was helpful. They just are saying this is the state's guidelines and what needs to be done. And it is very taxing on people, small businesses. And one of the issues for me would be moving forward, if this is something that, doesn't have any kind of, we can't get help on, I have to figure out how to roll that into the price of a lease, because I can't say if even him coming from, it's the intended use of the space going from Mercantile to Assembly. But what if Todd opens up, and then on the heels of that, the next person that wants to come in is then going to be Mercantile. Then I have to have the same Appendix B to transition the space back to Mercantile. So I was just wondering also with the economic development, if there was something they could put in, because as far as having a list or directory of all the licensed people or who could help fill out an Appendix B, because when we were looking, at first we were going to Greensboro, or we tried to look in the county, but it really shifted us to Greensboro and Burlington or Winston-Salem, Asheboro. It wasn't really easy to find someone in the county that could help us. And then from there too, when you're looking at site selection, this is not something that's really brought up. Even in the Economic Development's website, their site selection shows commercial spaces, commercial units, commercial buildings, but in no way does it show intended use. So you might have someone who has a small business going that direction, and then they get caught in this web of what is the intended use of the building. And so that's just something that I'm hoping that there could be a way to have, maybe with the economic development, that they could have something on their site for people that can help. So thank you.
What we can do, but let me just tell you that the Appendix B, while it has some drawbacks, in particular situations maybe like this, it's designed for safety. So when you're changing the use from one thing to Assembly, you're talking about putting more people in there, and so the fire codes and all that stuff have to be verified. So it's all about safety.
No, I completely agree and understand that it's not a problem with the building. It's just to keep the people safe and the occupants of that planned usage safe. I'm just saying that if there was a way to find people in the county that could, when we're talking to architects in Asheboro or in Greensboro, instead of talking to an architect here, it wasn't easiest for to find the resources here in the county.
All right, I got you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next on the list is Stokes Ann Hunt. Thank you. Please give us your name and address.
Stokes Ann Hunt, 1210 Huntsdale Road, Reidsville. And thank you for listening. I do feel like this is a county business issue, but it is about South End. So May the 29th, we had a meeting at South End where our school board members were present and our superintendent of Rockingham County Schools. We were told that we are looking at transparency and for informed decision-making. So they heard, our school board members were there, they heard the voice of our community. So now I'm telling you a little bit about the voice of the community. I've worked at Annie Penn Hospital for 13 years, and many of those years involved physician recruitment and provider recruitment. So that is for our entire county. That's physicians, nurse practitioners, PAs. The first thing we're asked when we recruit a provider is tell me about your school system. Tell me what kind of schools, if I move there, my children will be attending. So South End is close to Annie Penn Hospital, and our physicians like to live within close proximity of the hospital. So we all want good health care in Rockingham County. We want to recruit good providers. We know that an investment in our public school infrastructure brings economic development, and a new South End Elementary School would help us recruit physicians and improve the primary care statistics and access to care that we have in this county. So today I was at the ribbon cutting, or Band-Aid cutting as we called it, for our mobile health van right here on this property. And we talked about transportation. So some of the plans that we were given at South End will move those children around to different locations and transition them outside of their neighborhood. So if we already have transportation issues, how will those children's parents get to those schools to pick them up or get to school events at those schools? So I just want everyone to keep in mind that we want the best school systems in Rockingham County, we want the best health care, and we want to take care, as you know, take care of those students and those parents the best way that we can. So I hope that the county commissioners who help direct the funding to the school board who helps decide where the facilities go, will all work together and listen to us and make those informed decisions and make the best decisions for Rockingham County with our community voice. Thank you.
Thank you. Malcolm Allen, Mr. Malcolm Allen. Good evening.
Too wish to address the past issue of the previous person on Southeast School. Even though it's an ongoing process, I feel like if we can gather as much information as we can along the way, we can have the most successful outcome. Living in the greatest country of all, there's one thing that I've observed. Each day we hear of financial woes, but when athletes request a $450 million salary, the money is found. When a CEO of a company making $20 million a year requests a rate increase, an increase is granted. When more funds are requested for charter schools, funds are found. But when an inner city whose construction date is close to 70 years old is in need of a new construction, the answer is renovation or moving the students to other areas. Why are the outer city students entitled to new facilities while the inner city suffers? Now, our county found funds of $13 million over 2 years for an airport that's used by a privileged few. But our kids cannot have the facility they deserve. If the entire amount is not available, have you considered putting a bond referendum on the ballot for the balance? Give the people an opportunity to voice their desire. I ask you, which is most important, our airport or our school? Lastly, I'd like to say, how many people here tonight own a private plane? Thank you.
All right, Reverend Wes Pitts, you're next.
Good evening, I'm Reverend Wes Pitts. I'm the pastor at First Presbyterian Church. I live at 1623 Country Club Road in Reedsville. It's a pleasure to be here with you all tonight. Stokes Ann sold herself short a little bit earlier. She not only helps recruit physicians, she also helped recruit me to come to this town and live in this community to serve as a pastor. I was told that South End was the place that I would want to raise my child. At the time, I had a 3-month-old. He is now a rising kindergartner. We've added to our family as foster parents, and that child is also a rising kindergartner. We want them to go to South End not only because we were told it's the best, but we look at the statistics. And I want my children to be in a place that is diverse, not just racially, but socioeconomically. And South End is that school. I had the privilege, before going to seminary, serving my community in Atlanta through AmeriCorps, and in that capacity, serving in some of the worst schools in and around Atlanta. One of those schools had a native language population of over 90 different native languages spoken at home in that school, which is incredible to try to conceive. The problem in those schools was never about administration. Administration was great, as it is at South End. It wasn't about teachers, because the teachers were great, as they are at South End. It was about the investment that was given for those children. And what I have found in my short time in Rockingham County, almost 5 years, is that there is willful negligence in the children in this community. Too often have our children been jerked around, told that they're going to go to one school one year and another school another year during the most pivotal times of their academic careers, when they're learning how not just to read, but then transitioning to use that reading to actually learn. Too often are they treated as a political football for your own gain, and they pay the price. What I see as the issue is the fact that Reedsville is growing. Just half a mile down from South End School, 200 homes are planned to be built. Where will children go to school if you just shove them somewhere else? Monroe Elementary School, one of the places that is proposed for them to go is at 85% capacity. They have 15% capacity. There's no room for all of these children to go. So the way I see it is either the Board of Commissioners, in choosing how they allocate funds for our kids, is either being short-sighted in how they allocate funds, or is being purposefully cruel. And I hope you are not being cruel to the children of this community, because it is those children that are this county's future. Thank you.
Ann Hughes Brea. Please give us your name and address. Baraja, I'm sorry.
I'm at 905 Country Club Drive, Reedsville. I wrote an email to a couple of you when those proposals came out at the school board meeting. I'm a wonderful advocate for Rockingham County for Reedsville, and right now I'm going to be an advocate for South End Elementary. One, because I attended South End. Two, because I'm now a mom of 2 children that go there, and very proud of the education that my children are receiving. But I'm also proud of the education I received from Rockingham County Schools, because while I was here, I learned a great deal of things. One thing I learned was how to be on a team, and I feel like at this point, we're being put back and forth between the school board and the county commissioners as to where the decision lies. And so I really feel like at this point, if the county commissioners and the school board could decide to work together, I think that a lot of these issues that you're probably going to hear tonight will go away. But until then, until you hear their voice and they hear yours, because I'm not pointing fingers, I'm simply stating that I feel like when I ask for help for South End, I say, I've heard, go to your school board. When I go to them and they have gotten behind us, I am told, let's go out to the county commissioners. So I do think it needs to be a team effort. And you need to recognize that there's a large group of people here tonight that are not going to speak, but they are big community stakeholders. They are grandparents of children that are at South End. They are parents of South End children. And all we're asking is for a fair chance for our children. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Larry Barefoot. What's your name and address, sir?
Pardon?
Give us your name and address, sir.
My name is Larry Barefoot, 1413 Brookwood Drive, Reedsville, North Carolina. And I had not planned on speaking. This was a afterthought. But first, I wanted to, Ms. Farrell has left, and y'all need to thank me. I hired her husband as a probation, as a probation officer about 30 years ago. And so they hung on to that. And so I'll take some credit for y'all having Ms. Farrell for this length of time. In my relationship with the board members, 3 of you I know very well. One of you I watched grow play baseball as a kid, know his father. Another one, mother taught me in school. So, and I have an interest in South End, but it's not because I have any children, because you can look at my age and tell that's been long gone. But when I came to Reedsville back in 1976, Ms. McMichael, I don't know if she's here, the school board member, her mother was my real estate agent. And she told me, you need to get a house in the South End School District. Those are her words in 1976. You want to get a house in the South End School District. I'm sort of stubborn. I bought a house in Franklin Street because I knew the principal, and he was a good friend of mine, and I thought he was going to do a good job, and he did. But that was the perception at that time. After I retired from being head of the probation and parole department, a few years later, I got my real estate license and started dabbling in real estate. The same thing was when you showed a house in Reedsville, the one thing you told them was, which you weren't supposed to do, was against the rules, was that this house is in the South End School District. And I don't know that it was better. I'm not saying it's better now, but I'm going to say that it was the perception then, it's the perception now, and from what a little bit of training I've had, perceptions play a big part in actuality. And so it is, got 1 minute, is that right? Yes, sir. Okay. And I understand that the school boards are the ones that deal with this, but I think that they get money from the county commissioners as well. I think they get it. So one of the reasons speaking is maybe to hear from people that have a really vested interest in what happens at South End rather than just the school board, because the people in that area have felt like that the South End district and the rest of the inner city, as the gentleman said earlier, have sort of been shortchanged. There's a footprint for a building to be built on the property in the school board's office somewhere right now, and it was drawn up 10 to 15 years ago. There's a footprint there for that school to be built. So it's not a completely new idea. It's just one that's been put aside for years and years. Am I through?
Thank you, Mr. Barefoot. Pastor James Tharrington, thank you, sir. Name and address, sir.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mr. Chair, Vice Chairman Powell, to our city manager and city attorney tonight. My name is James Tharrington. I serve as the pastor of Evangel Fellowship Reedsville here in the city of Reedsville in Rockingham County. My address is 349 Mark Road. I stand tonight for three quick reasons. Firstly, last fall, I brought to the attention of the county commissioners that the level of food that's been wasted in Rockingham County was not good. I said I would come back, and I've been back 3 times to report progress has been and is being made in terms of saving food, one of the most essential things that all of our children and our families receive. Secondly, also brought to the attention of our county commissioners last fall as well. As you know, many of our students are part of the backpack program. We have many people in our community that give food, money, and resources to make sure that our children and family have food on the weekends. What we discovered with the backpack program, that many of the kids that receive food don't have microwaves. Our church and many community leaders in this room tonight rallied, and as of the 31st of May, 2024, we have collected and distributed 50 microwaves to families that do not have them in Reedsville and Rockingham County. Finally, tonight I also brought to your attention 2 years ago my concern about not only South End School, Mall Street, and other schools that are in desperate report. Last Wednesday night, our school, South End, stakeholders and people in the community decided they want to voice their opinion about South End and the current condition of South End. What happened, it was an overwhelming success because I felt that we left out of that meeting May 29th, 2024 with one voice, and that voice was not the 4 options that were initially given to us, but the option was that our community, referring to South End, desires and wants a new school. One of the reasons I believe tonight that people are here, my ask for you tonight is real simple. Much information and disinformation has been given in the community. I will hope tonight from the end of this meeting, we would have some clarity in the community. Our school board has spoken and given us the next meeting, which is June 10th, next Monday. I would invite all of our commissioners to be there. Your presence makes a difference and speaks volumes. Lastly, as I said last week, I kind of pushed the ball to have people to come tonight because I felt people needed to talk and understand their leaders. If you all tonight, as I close, could give us the instructions from your end. We know what the school board's end is to present proposals. Can you just clarify for us again, whether it's Mr. Berger or someone, Chairman Hall, how does the process work once you all get the ball back in your court? That way we can all sing from the same sheet of music in the community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Reverend Tharrington. Donna White. Yeah, Ms. White, give us your name and address as you approach the podium. Thank you.
My name is Donna White, 1100 Deerfield Drive here in Reedsville. Again, my name is Donna White. I'm a mother to 2 sons, one that is a student at South End, and hopefully my second will be a student at South End as well. My oldest, he attends the Splash program at South End, and the year that he began his school journey, we've continuously been fighting for whether or not he's going to be moved, whether it's going to be a new school or the school's going to be closed. So, and ultimately, you know, I did not want him to be uprooted from his comfort zone. So today, I'm here to speak on behalf of the parents who feel like their voice doesn't matter, and even if they speak up, that they're not going to be heard. So before I begin with my complaint, I would like to thank you for your continued funding for upgrades and how you've worked collectively with the school board and the superintendent. Now to my ask. I'm requesting the same initiative be made towards South End in building a new school. If you can collaborate to get upgrade funds, we're asking that you collaborate and get a new school built. This has been a long-standing conversation, as many have already said, and the community spoke, as many have said last week, and the proposed options are not inclusive of the stakeholders that are being affected. And I understand that you're waiting on further information information from the school system. However, when you do gather all the information, I'm asking that you take into consideration the lack of resources that these students at South End have, unlike their counterparts across the county. There are disparities that are happening across the county, and I'm asking that you bring equitable opportunities to the Reidsville community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. White. Graciela Martinez.
Good afternoon. My name is Graciela Martinez. I'm at 191 Dennis Drive, Reidsville. I'm a proud South End parent with a child in the Splash program. When my husband and I were doing our due diligence, looking for a school for our son to attend, we elected to put him in the Splash program at South End, even though we're 20 minutes away. With the confidence that we had, we were hoping that he would reach his full potential. Growing up in Rockingham County School District, as a first-generation Mexican-American, I was the interpreter for my parents. Growing up with such responsibility was difficult. While I did feel I was part of an amazing community, I'm now extremely disappointed in all of the decisions that have been made without the input of your Hispanic community. Did you know that 6.34% of the population in Rockingham County is Hispanic? Did you know that 3.77% of those are in Reidsville alone? That's approximately 500 people. I'm here today in representation of all of them. I'm here today to ask you to make sure that part of the inner city schools, the minority Hispanic group, has a voice. I ask you today to please consider reaching out to those people. Many of the community are not aware of the decisions that are being made for their children because no one has made an effort to let them know. In addition, we have recently heard news that Splash program that we rave so much about is not being offered in the following year. It is incredible disservice to take the Splash program away. It is an even bigger disservice to even begin to have shutting down, to speak of shutting down your inner city schools, especially when we all know our city is only growing. Building a new school would provide provide the space, safety, and the environment that students and staff need and deserve. I have a couple of questions just for you all to think about and keep in mind. Please tell me if you would be comfortable with your child going to school where they're in the middle of their instructive time, only to say, "Hey, there's a roach on the wall." And the rest of them say, "Oh yeah," brush it off and keep going. Would you be content as a teacher that sits her back down from a long day of work only to come home and see a roach climbing out of her purse and to a wall?
Oh, wow.
Is this truly the way we would like for your county to be represented? I really urge you all to keep in mind the community that is here in front of you and the community of the Hispanics that are in this county. And I am part of that community, and I have been for 28 years of my life. And our children deserve a new school. Our teachers deserve a new school. Our community deserves a new school. I appreciate your time.
Martinez. The last person on our list is Vicki Alston.
And before she gets started, Roy, I just got a message that online they've lost sound. If you could check on that, please.
All right, very good. Thank you, Commissioner. Ms. Alston, give us your name and address, please.
Vicki Alston, 630 Parkway Boulevard, Reidsville, North Carolina. I'm part of the school board, but I'm here representing District 1 tonight. That is my district. They're the ones that voted me in, and I'm standing up for them. I want the best education and facilities for all of our students in Rockingham County. I feel that we need 2 elementary schools in Reidsville. We need Mall Street and South End. When I came to Reidsville, we had 5 elementary schools, and we're down to 2. The growth is happening. I met with Summer Woodard, the city manager, 1,200 new homes within the city of Reidsville in the next 2 years. Where are we going to put these children? Children come with homes. We're next to 785, the new interstate. That is going to bring growth to Reidsville in great quantities. And they said there was a Guilford County city council member that just stated, we may be a sleeper community now, but in 2 years, we won't know Rockingham County because 220 and Reidsville will be the areas that grow. It looks like we need to really get ready. We need to be proactive and be ready for our students. We have the land now at South End. We thought we only had 8 acres, but we have 15. The city will work with us on all traffic issues. I met with Summer on that issue. Mall Street and South End are vital to our community. Reidsville and Stoneville both need new elementary schools. If you would like to come to Reidsville, I will personally, with the city manager, take you around and show you the growth and where they're breaking ground for all this new growth, and go to the schools and see the conditions of South End. Our nickname is the North Carolina North Star. Let's shine for the students of Rockingham County because they are our investment and they're our future leaders. The motto for our county, you're in a good place. We're in a great place, but we need to have the best schools in the state, and that can happen with your help. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Alston. Before we move on to the next item, I would like to allow the commissioners to comment just a little bit since we've talked a lot about this issue and before you guys leave. There's been a couple of things. I'll open the floor if someone wants to go first. If not, I will. I think that one of the questions was, what is the process? Yes, sir. The process is the commissioners fund the buildings. So we're concerned to be sure that we fund the building in a financially sound manner so that the taxpayers in the county are getting the best value for their money. And that means the best school design, that means the best location, and looking at the growth patterns that are going on in Reidsville. As has been correctly pointed out, there's a lot of things happening, a lot of moving parts. So while the school board will take the lead in that, a couple of the commissioners do sit on the facilities committee, and we work with them to try to help guide and make recommendations as well. So the decision ultimately, as far as location, that kind of stuff, will be the school boards. However, your Board of Commissioners will have to finance it, and we'll have to be convinced that we're making the best financial decision for the community, not only for Reidsville, but for the county. Did someone else would like to speak or address this? Commissioner Powell?
So there were a couple of remarks that I would like to pay close attention to. One, you cannot compare the county and its finances to an independent business or a factory or to a sports star. You guys pay for that as well. So when you buy the Jordan tennis shoes for your kids and pay $200 for them, that helps pay the sports star. But the taxes is what pays for this stuff. And in this county today, there are more people in this county over the age of 60 than there are under the age of 18, which means that the majority of the tax burden in this county demographically would be on those over the age of 60. And so when you're talking about $30 million to potentially build an elementary school, that could be as much as about a 25 cents rate hike in the tax rate. On the current budget. So as Commissioner Hall stated, we have to make the decisions on the schools based on, what we can afford as a county, what the county can afford, and what is best for the students as well as the taxpayer altogether. And the schools, back when I was going to school, I went to Franklin Street as well. I think I got a pretty good education there. They were all nice folks, but in those days, I don't know if the principal you were talking about was Mr. Hines, but he would sure tear your britches up if you got out of line. So maybe we need more of that nowadays. I don't know. My daughter went to Mall Street. I know she got a good education. And so therefore, there are a lot of good schools. There's a lot of schools in need, and I believe the Facilities Committee helped to establish a plan to address a lot of the needs at the various schools. Ms. Austin, you're right, I toured Stoneville with you, and the lady was talking about a cockroach on the wall. I saw wet food at Stoneville. I saw a leaking roof that had been leaking for 3 years. Now, keep in mind that I think at that time we were giving the schools $18 million per year. And we can't control necessarily how that's spent. And my comments have no reflection on the current school board either, because a lot of things happened previous to these folks getting on that board and working to straighten this out. So there are a lot of parameters that we work in, but make no mind here that the school board will be the one makes the decision of what they want or where they think it needs to go, and they'll bring it to the commissioners, and we'll flesh that out then with the dollar signs. The other thing was the comments about the airport. The money that was given to the airport come from the state legislature, from Senator Berger's office, not from the county funds. So, while we thank him for that, we would not have been able to do that out of our funds anyway. And that airport does play a vital role for economic development in the county. So there's a lot of moving parts in this. Some of you sent some messages over, to me, and particularly one person that spoke tonight sent a message on an email to me, and I responded to that and asked you to call me, and maybe you did, and I just didn't catch the call. But we'll be glad to talk to you individually or collectively, but we really don't have anything to talk about tonight because we don't have an issue before us that the school board has requested. Do appreciate you being here, stay involved, and as the process goes on, I'm sure that we'll be able to come to some agreement about what's going to be done with all the schools in the county.
Commissioner Berger?
Okay, and thank you, Chairman. Just want to kind of expand on one thing that Commissioner Powell mentioned. The money for the airport, that was also restricted money, meaning that it could not be spent any other way. So people who want to kind of allude to potentially spending it another way, or maybe that we're mishandling the money or it could be spent some other way, it's just not accurate. They also talked about, we do have a facilities meeting. Not long ago, we approved over $20 million of improvements to our school system as a whole. That touched every one of the districts. We had students getting wet during class, and they were not holding class outside, but anytime it rained, they were getting wet. Unfortunately, a few years ago, it was presented to the school board about fixing those roofs, and we had a former school board member that wanted to put that off. That has increased the spending of over $4 million additional dollars because they didn't want to tackle the issue at that point in time. So I mention that because each of these things that we look at cost money. And it was mentioned that we have another school that is very old and in need of upgrade, replacement, repair, wherever that falls. If it is replacement, that's an additional, right now, estimated $30 million. And those figures of $30 million are numbers that come from the Department of Public Instruction as far as the estimated cost at this point in time for building a new school. So we are tasked with finding the funding for schools as far as construction, as far as facilities, and also some of the operating money. We're also tasked with finding the money for every other department that is essential for county government. So the other thing that has been mentioned is what the school system sends to us, we're then responsible to fund. We're also responsible to vet that information. Not long ago, it was presented to us that we had schools that were overcrowded. We then took information that we were provided from the school system, plugged it in, and found out that all of the overcrowdedness at every one of the schools was self-inflicted problems because of the lack of enforcement of transfer policies. And once we talked to the school board about that. It's going to be a matter of some people are not going to be happy with enforcement of rules. Some people are not going to be happy with how things are handled. But we are tasked with looking at the financial piece, vetting that information with the school board and with administration, and moving forward and weighing other things that we also have to fund. So the Monday night meeting that was mentioned, I believe that is a regular school board meeting. I don't know if they're also having a community meeting that night or not. Maybe one of the school board members can speak to whether that's the case, or is it just your school board meeting? Okay, they will have public comment at the school board meeting as well. And are there any other community meetings? I know they have canceled one. Did they cancel both of the other ones?
So do you have those dates for the next two meetings? Have they been announced yet?
One was tonight.
Both of them been canceled. The superintendent contacted me today and said both have been canceled.
They've not been rescheduled?
Yes,
They've been
sir.
canceled for now?
Yes, sir.
So they'll be announced at a later time?
I would encourage you to contact the central office to find out if or when another community meeting is scheduled. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Barrow?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I would like to just say that I appreciate everybody coming out to voice their concerns. Back with a previous iteration of the school board, back I think it was around 2017, I was in your position. I'm from Eden, and specifically my family's from Draper, and there was a move by the school board to close the Draper School. In addition, I believe at the time they were talking about closing Dillard Elementary, based off of a study they had done from the state of North Carolina State University, I believe. And at the time, Draper Elementary was the poorest socioeconomic school in the county. And I went and I made the same sort of presentation that was made tonight. Obviously you don't care about the poor kids. At the time, I was not an elected official, and I had a lot to learn about the way that the finances go in the county. Being from Eden, I understand what it's like to have that part of town's getting it, and my part of town's not getting it. Because even now, if you go to Eden and ask somebody where they're from, they'll let you know if they're from Leesville, Spray, or Draper. With that being said, I see everyone here is from Reidsville, and obviously you're very concerned about Reidsville schools. And previously, when these stories were told about South End schools in the 70s, they were Reidsville City schools, just as Eden had Eden City schools. When we make decisions now, and in my current position as an elected official, I have to look out for all of Rockingham County. I have to make the decisions that's best for all the children of Rockingham County. So just keep in mind that it's not just Reidsville that we have to look at. We have to provide funding for children all over the county. We have to provide buildings for children all over the county. And when we look at that, as Commissioner Berger said, we have to look at growth patterns. We have to look at where people are moving in. And the school board also has to look at where those growth patterns are and what's the best way to fill up the schools that we have before we start talking about the right place to put a new school. Because you can't move a school once you build it. If growth starts in one area and you build a school in the other area, we're in trouble. So we have to make sure that we look at all the options for growth patterns. We have to look at what the school board is doing about redistricting and filling the schools that we have. And that's just something that we take into account. But also in this closing of the Draper School and what was originally going to be Dillard School, my wife's a school teacher. She was teaching at the New Vision, which was closed in Dillard's Place in Madison. My wife loved that school. She would have taught there for the rest of her career. Now she's no longer teaching in the county based off of this. So, this is something we all feel. This isn't just, we're picking on you. My wife is pregnant, 6 months. We'll be having our first child in September, and my children will go to Rockingham County schools. So, this is something that's near and dear to all of us. So the idea that somehow we gain something by, shortchanging people in Reidsville, there's no basis for that. So appreciate everything that you've said tonight, and we hope that we can come to a solution that works for everybody in the county. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Barrow. Commissioner Richardson?
I, too, appreciate the opportunity to hear opinions, and most of them match. Even yours, Larry Barefoot, with what I've heard before. You never have bought me breakfast, Larry. Never mind. It's superfluous. I heard Commissioner Powell talking about numbers. Roughly 1 in 4 Rockingham County residents is on a fixed income. for one reason or another, mainly because they're older than 65 years. So we have to be sensitive to the amount of public money we spend. Now, that said, there are some truths that many of you reiterated tonight. Despite what the Census Bureau said a few years ago, the population of our county is growing. There are significantly, not just in Reedsville, but significantly throughout the county, a growing number of building permits. More people, more children. We need more schools. They're not cheap. If you use the state-provided models to avoid architecture and engineering, you can use a state model for plan. You're going to find elementary schools priced between $30 and $40 million. You're going to find middle schools between $45 and $55 million, and high schools at $60 million plus. And even more scary, if some of you were as old as me, or maybe not quite as old as me, you remember when we put in new schools at Lincoln, Huntsville, Williamsburg, all around. The first one of those went in at $11.5 million. This was all part of the same building program. The last one went in at $20 million, and it's basically the same school. I'm telling you, inflation has hit schools. We've got to do something about it. We're going to work as hard as we can. We're going to listen to the school board as they look at the whole picture. We know that we're going to have to build a middle and a high school in the next 5 to 10 years. And you heard the figures that I put out on that. We're going to have to work together, but you're going to have to look beyond your personal situation. Totally sympathetic with you. Now, some people have heard me say, and I'll say it again, I have 3 children, and my situation is different from you. But my 3 children went through 18 different schools in the course of their secondary school education. And they will tell you today that they benefited from that rather than were hurt. I mention that because as these new schools are built, and there are going to be new schools built, with our help and the school board's help and your support, they're going to be built. You're going to have to redistrict a number of times. And for many people, that word, the R word, redistrict, is offensive. But it is one of the items that all of us are going to have to work together and be understanding and do it in a way that causes the least disruption and facilitates all the population of this county getting to where they need to be in order to house and educate our students. Thank you much.
Well, thank you, Commissioner. I'll just want to add one last comment if no one else has anything that's on their mind. I do want to mention, and Commissioner Berger talked about it, earlier this year, we worked with the school board to come up with a pretty aggressive 5-year plan for maintenance. Commissioner Berger said $20 million. By the time you get out 5 years, it's more like $37 million, including debt and pay-go. So that was pretty aggressive to take care of some of these pressing issues we have now. And the administration is doing a good job on getting bids and getting that process underway. I want to thank the school board staff for that. But also, some people were scratching their heads. Why are you looking to send some kids out of the downtown areas, out of the schools in the city? Well, a lot of these newer schools have been built to be expandable. So when you look at these newer schools that have been built for expansion, if I expand a school, I don't need a new cafeteria. I don't need a new playground. I don't need a new gym. I don't need a new administration pod. I don't need a new library. I don't need much more parking lot. So there are a lot of ways to save money by expanding the school rather than building an all-new school right now. And again, being on the cusp of all this growth, maybe one of the things the school board needs to consider, which I know they have, is that growth hasn't occurred yet. But as we see that growth coming about, maybe the thing to do is do some of these expansions, get us through for a few years until we see what that expansion looks like, and then build that school in the appropriate spot. We appreciate everyone for being here tonight. Thank you for your input. We hear you. This is going to be a touchy issue. I know it's very emotional, but thank you for coming with that. With that, I'm going to take a 5-minute recess. We'll reconvene at 45 after the hour. Thank you. We're in recess. We are back in session. I appreciate the enthusiasm and the discussions we've had tonight. Thank you very much. The next item on our agenda is item number 9, a public hearing by our county manager, Lance Metzler. Mr. Metzler?
Never mentioned a word about redistricting ever again.
All right, well, Tom, thank you very much, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. I want to thank you all for allowing me to present the fiscal year 24-25 recommended budget. But first, I would like to thank the team, Derek Southern, Pat Galloway, Justin Thacker, and our budget analyst, Olivia Leggett, especially Mr. Southern and Ms. Leggett. They've done a fantastic job. They met with the departments, and they did a really good job narrowing in the focus for me to consider and make my modifications to the budget. In this slide, you'll see your vision, mission statement, and strategic focus areas that you all approved earlier this year, and it's what we based our budget development from. Our guiding principles were to present a fiscally responsible budget and ad valorem tax rate, maintain essential service delivery, plan for current and future capital needs, develop a competitive pay structure to retain and recruit staff, and provide necessary funding for education. The formal budget process started in February, but the informal process of preparing and forecasting began in 2023. After we received all requests, we had a general budget deficit of 27.1, or equivalent of 32.5 cents of the property tax rate. The recommendation is to set a property tax rate at 58.01 cents, which is roughly a 11.5 cents decrease from 69.5. The revenue neutral rate is 51.01, which includes the 3% growth rate in value since 2019. The total general fund budget is close to $126 million, which represents 11.49% increase from the current year's adopted budget. All funds, which include the general fund, enterprise fund, and other funds, total just shy of $168.5 million. The value of the penny has increased $362,019, and that shows you the market, because years past it would be $23,000 or $28,000, so it's jumped up tremendously based on the market. The 24-25 ad valorem will yield $69.4 million, or an increase of 19.7% compared to last year. This does include the CIP tax rate of 4 cents, which is revenue neutral and was previously 5.5 cents. That equates to roughly a $4.8 million. The ad valorem is the largest source of discretionary revenue, and it's comprised of 4 parts. The real property values are projected to increase by 55.29%, or an increase of approximately $3.1 billion in values. This increase is obviously driven by the revaluation we just had. Personal property is projected to increase by only 5%, or an increase of $55 million in value. Several projects are in progress but will not be completed in this upcoming year. Public utility values is projected to increase by 33.13%, or approximately $271 million in value. Remember, this will be reinstated to full value this upcoming year, as we lost about 1.8 in the previous year. And motor vehicles is projected to increase by 5.5%, or an increase of $60 million in value for a variety of different reasons. Our tax collection rate did increase from 98.52% to 98.61%. This slide simply reflects proposed rates in surrounding counties, and if counties our size, we are on the lower end with the proposed rate of 58.01 cents. The other chart to the right reflects the revenue neutral rates for the municipalities and their proposed tax rate for 24-25. We are forecasting a zero growth in sales tax because spending levels are going back to pre-COVID, and our current distributions are 3.18% lower than last year. Even across the state, we're still trying to find out what the trends are as far as what the normal will be when it comes to spending. This amount does not include the quarter-cent sales tax. Other key revenue changes, Medicaid home harmless, we decreased that by $1.2 million. Our county is one of 20 counties that lost hold harmless funding this upcoming year, and that was due to the decline in sales tax growth. Public health fees have increased of almost $300,000, and that's directly related from an increase of clientele in the public health, the dental office, and our mobile unit. Earned interest, we budgeted a decrease of $200,000 this year, when last year we budgeted over $2 million increase in the current fiscal year. The rise in interest rates coupled with the COVID funding enabled us to increase the investment portfolio in the current year. Interest rates have stabilized and pandemic funding has been spent down, which is the primary reason for the decrease. We are budgeting a decrease of fund balance in approximately $23,934. It has been a custom for us to use a $2.5 million plug from fund balance. $1.8 million is in fund balance. That's included as a one-time contribution to the schools to assist with low wealth funding lost, but should receive those funds next year. I've included a one-time purchase for both the fire marshal and public utilities in the amount of $128,000 for vehicles. Also, 2 items to be funded through jail canteen fund, and that is the second-year contract for the smoke exhaust inspection in the jail and the newly created Veterans Court Diversion Program. The total general fund is $125.7 million. This represents close to a $13 million increase from the current year. The primary reasons for the increase are $5.05 million proposed to go to the public schools, including a one-time funding bridge for the loss of low wealth funding, $2.9 in personnel costs to keep the county competitive and to help us to be able to retain and recruit qualified staff to implement effective services for our citizens, $1.1 million to implement the competitive study you all approved last year on those positions that we have difficult time to fill. And this is only an estimate. We'll not have the true numbers until July. This is just an estimate. Hopefully it's less. $353,000 in the budget for various services that have increased, such as juvenile detention, and that comes from Raise the Age, medical examiner, the jail meal contract. Basically, our jail is full right now, and utilities. The rest of the increases in your budget are miscellaneous increases that we are experiencing providing services. We are recommending to add 4 positions with 1 in workforce development. That's fully funded from a grant, RCC grant. 2 in public health, 1 in social services, and reclassifying 3 positions. As you all are aware, we have a very difficult time with retention and recruitment of staff in previous years. It's not just a Rockingham County issue, but regardless, we still need to be competitive in order to have the staff to provide adequate services that our citizens expect. Human Resources has projected an employee turnover rate to be around 14% this past year. A troubling statistic is more than 35% of our current employees have less than 2 years' experience, and over half of our workforce has less than 5 years' experience. To attempt to give us tools to retain and recruit, we recommend a 4% cost of living increase to employees and 2% for the positions that are not filled to aid in that salary compression, a 3% merit increase. I'm also recommending another pay study to evaluate those that were not evaluated during the past study. Capital expenditures, the 4 cents, which I mentioned earlier, was previously 5.5 cents before the revaluation. There's CIP set-aside funds that allow the county to address many of our capital needs. I'm recommending utilizing close to $1.5 million for capital projects, and we'll discuss this in greater length at our work session. I'll pause for a second. That's the commercial.
Is that impressive?
Okay, I guess the commercial's over with. We'll continue on. We received the public schools budget, and they requested an increase over $11.2 million in its current expense allocation and no request to increase their capital outlay. This budget recommends a $3.25 million increase in current expense, along with a one-time $1.8 million allocation to bridge the gap in low wealth funding, which should be reinstated next year. I would recommend no increase to the capital outlay funding. The School Facility Committee has worked, as we mentioned earlier, diligently to develop a plan to fund both PAYGO projects and debt finance projects. RCC requested 11.2% increase in current expense and a 44.4% increase in capital outlay. The recommended budget maintains the current year appropriation and recommends a small increase in capital outlay funding because the debt of the science lab is decreasing. Currently, $1.3 million in quarter-cent sales tax is transferred to RCC for workforce development programs. The remaining $1.83 million is sent to the county's debt service fund to cover the debt payment for the Workforce Development Center. The county issued $21.16 million in debt to construct the new Workforce Development Center in May of 2022. The annual debt payment is approximately $1.8 million, which comes from the quarter-cent sales tax. We provided the fire departments with projected tax revenues in February. New revaluations with revenue-neutral rates were provided to all the fire departments on May 9th. New valuations were delayed due to new numbers not being released until early April and the appeal deadline of May 8th. The proposed budget recommends revenue-neutral for all fire departments this year. Derek and I met with the Fire Chief Council's chairman, and we'll work with the fire departments in early of next year to see what their needs are. We've told them to don't worry necessarily about the revenues you're bringing in, but worry about your budget. Once you get your budget established with any capital, bring it to us, and we'll work with them to establish a revenue request to you all in case they have a revenue request. Yes, sir.
Roy, I got another message. That sound is lost online again. Good? Okay, thank you.
So do I have to repeat anything?
Thank you, good.
Okay. But again, we'll work with those fire departments on those requests next year. Just in conclusion, department heads and staff were very effective in meeting deadlines and sharing information. We used all the tools that we had in order to provide a sound, balanced budget that preserves funding for county services, prepares for capital needs, improves the county's ability to recruit and retain qualified staff. This budget ensures the county will continue to provide citizens with the quality of services they need and deserve. The next steps, the Board of Commissioners will have a work session on June 7th after receiving public input from the public hearing tonight. Again, thank you for allowing me to present my recommended budget and look forward to our work session on the 7th. Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. We appreciate you and the staff, the time y'all have put into this project to come up with a conservative, tight budget. We will open a public hearing tonight. We've had several people sign up to speak. With that, let me open the public hearing. And with that, we'll ask our county attorney to speak to the guidelines that will go by tonight. Mr. Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The public who signed up to speak will have 3 minutes to speak, or they can yield their time to another individual. However, no one individual will have more than 6 minutes to speak. And there's a 30-minute time limit for public comments. Each speaker shall clearly state his or her name and physical address when he or she approaches the podium. Once the public has had the opportunity to voice either in favor or against the proposal, then following the public hearing, the board will discuss further action to be taken.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney. With that, the first person signed up to speak is Claire Stone. Ms. Stone, make your way. Give us your name and address, please.
Thanks. Claire Stone, 172 Leprechaun Lane in Stoneville. I'm here to speak for increased funding for the Board of Elections. It's a tumultuous time in our country, and adequate funding of elections gives county staff what they need to meet that challenge. If we don't have confidence in the elections that they're free and fair, then it impacts all of the candidates and all the political parties. According to the budget posted online, the Board of Elections approved budget for 23-24 was $602,596. The requested budget for this fiscal year is $612,527, but the recommended funding for this budget is $602,077. So you're proposing to spend less on elections this year for the general election of the county, state, and federal candidates than you spent last year. Citizen interest is going to be off the charts, of course. Besides the challenge of the elections, other financial needs include staff training and voter education to ensure compliance with newly implemented election laws, and proposed renovations to the Board of Elections to enlarge the meeting room that houses the early voting, training, and board meetings. I support increased funding for the Board of Elections to help meet the challenge for this year and in the future. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Dunn. Next, we have Ms. Erin Rakestraw. Will you be speaking or lending your time? Thank you, Ms. Rakestraw. Paula Rakestraw next. Please make your way. Give us your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Paula Rakestraw. I reside at 595 Foxwood Road in Madison. As liaison from the Board of Education to the County Commissioners, I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you tonight, as well as to the taxpayers of Rockingham County. As you prepare the county's budget, I want to make sure folks are aware of a few things. By law, Rockingham County schools must distribute a part of the funds we receive from the county to charter schools based on the prorated portion of students attending their schools. Therefore, the money we are requesting is not just for the Rockingham County schools, it's also for all the students of Rockingham County. As you all have noted, the last increase to the students of Rockingham County received was 2010. That allocation equates to $1,139 per student. Based on the actual 46% inflation that has occurred since 2010, the equivalent allocation today would be $1,664 per student. It's also important for you and the taxpayers to be aware that Rockingham County Schools does not receive funds for music teachers, art teachers, foreign language teachers, and even PE teachers in our middle and high schools. And remember, PE is a required course for graduation. Therefore, we are forced to include those enhancement courses in our regular teacher allotment from the state, and this forces larger class sizes. It's also important to note that although we receive state funds for our Exceptional Children's Program, that funding is capped by the state at 13% of our student population. Yet, based on our actual needs, Rockingham County is serving 17% of our student population. We have continued to see this population increase over the past 5 years. As a result, it is requiring us to dip into our local allocation in order to adequately serve this specific population. In addition, it's important for you to know also that Rockingham County Schools, along with all other public school districts across the state, received a legislative mandate in fiscal year 22-23 to increase all salaries to a minimum of $15 an hour without receiving an increase for those paid from local funds. While I commend the county for recognizing the need to increase salaries for your employees in order to remain competitive, likewise, the school system needs to be competitive. It has become increasingly difficult to recruit and retain teachers and support staff due to lower wages and lower supplements compared to those offered by our surrounding counties. Over the past 5.5 years, I have had the honor of serving on the Board of Education and have had the opportunity to work alongside with you all as we created a 5-year facilities plan that takes care of the buildings that house our students. During this time, you have asked the school board to spend the school's fund balance and to trust you all as our safety net. With that, I have 2 requests. Please consider increasing the county's recommendation for funding for Rockingham County students by a minimum of the actual inflation increase since 2010 of 46%. This equates to an additional $1 million above the $3.25 million recommendation for a total recurring allocation of $4.2 million. Although we do appreciate the recurring $3.25 million recommendation and the one-time $1.8 million to bridge the loss of low-wealth funds, however, you must know that even with that increase and after cutting over $300 worth of programs, 3 positions at central office, 1 position in maintenance, 1 position in transportation, and 1 position in technology, we still will have to cut up to an additional 14 positions. These are positions that have direct contact with our students and will likely come from our school administration as well as instructional support staff, which include social workers, behavioral health specialists, media coordinators, guidance counselors, school nurses, and psychologists. The second thing I'm requesting is that you come alongside the Board of Education in helping us advocate at the state level for additional funds that will support mandates, will support additional staff that will have direct contact with students, and will support appropriate compensation for the professionals who impact our future leaders. Please don't force us to sacrifice a quality education at the expense of our students. Thank you again for your time and diligent consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Rakestraw. Hang on just a second. I think there's a question for you.
I just had one question. I want to verify something. So you had mentioned the supplement. That's money that's received from the county for teachers. And you said, looking for an increase. But I just want to be clear, in the request that we received from the school board and in your plea just now, you did not request an increase in the supplement for teachers in Rockingham County. Is that correct?
That is correct, that we did not specifically request that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rakestraw. Yep. Commissioner Powell?
Some of the positions that you talked about, Ms. Rakestraw, were positions that were hired last year, basically out of savings with the school system. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
No thought about the well, maybe not no thought, but without a definite plan of how to keep those jobs should your experiment with them work out in the favor of the schools. Is that correct?
There was a recommendation that when those positions were recommended to us, that those positions we were going to be looking to be able to charge Medicaid. Unfortunately, the individual who was overseeing that is no longer with our program, with our school system.
So I think the information that I received, there may be 11 of those positions. Is that correct? Do you know the number of positions that were hired based with one-time money but are reoccurring cost?
The recommendation was for 6 positions, but we actually only have 4 staffed. One of the positions is a state-funded position.
So 4 of those that you talked about that would be lost were actually hired last year with one-time money. Is that, hate to keep asking that, but I just want to make sure I understand correctly. And so when Mr. Metzler, when's the first time you heard about this?
I assumed that the 3.25 was sufficient until recently. I just haven't heard.
That's all you've been asked for by the administration?
No, originally, at the very beginning, they had talked about $4 million, but I told them at the time that wasn't going to work. And then I looked at 10%, and then through discussions with some of the board members, we looked at 3.25.
Okay, all right. Thank you. I just want to make sure that I understood.
The original request was 11.
Yeah, well.
But I understand.
That was the original 11 million, but what Stover said in the meeting with myself and the assistant manager was 4 million would be what it would take to get by.
You get back the low wealth money. That's the 1.8 million, right? That's expected to be returned to you next year.
We will have lost it in the 24-25 school year, but we will get it back. It is my understanding that we will get it back in the 25-26.
And that's why we're plugging it for
That's
this
correct.
1 year.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And we appreciate that.
Any more questions, gentlemen?
Well,
Mr. Berger?
Not necessarily a question as much as just some clarification for the general public. The low wealth money that's been referenced has to do with a formula that is a state formula. It ties into property values as it compares to sales prices, just same formula that required us to do the reval to start with. It also ties into the amount of funding that the county gives to the school system and a number of other factors. It's a long, complicated formula that it's a very complicated algebra formula. And based on the increase to the school system and the reval that is taking place this year, all calculations indicate that they will receive that low wealth funding back to the full allotment that they were receiving before, and it sounds like some additional monies as well. And so it's a state formula. It's tied into what we give them. It's also tied into the sales prices as they compare to property tax values, and a number of other things. So just wanted to kind of throw that out there. People hear low wealth funding.
Very good, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Rakestraw. All right, next on our list to speak is Ms. Dawn Sharaba. You seem surprised.
Thank you all for allowing us to speak on the budget today. My name's Dawn Sharaba. I live at 913 Country Club Drive. If you're familiar with that address, it is in the South End community, and my neighbors spoke today, and I do stand with them in our concern. I did email the Joint Facilities Committee. They love hearing from me. I know Paula and Kimberly love it when I email them. So I'm not going to harp on that, but I do want to say when we are making big budget decisions around facilities, whether it's Reidsville, Stoneville, Eden, there needs to be a representative from that community on that committee. So moving forward, as you all meet, I would love to see a City of Reidsville employee, someone from the district that represents Reidsville to be able to share information. But what I do want to speak on tonight is to raise awareness of the possible elimination within the RCS budget around the behavioral health specialist, assistant principals, instructional coaches, and Head Start classrooms, as Paula alluded to. We did have an Eggs and Issues breakfast. I want to thank Commissioner Richardson for attending that. We did hear from early education specialists, our school system behavioral health specialist, and someone from Youth Haven Services about the need for behavioral health services within our community and what they are seeing as far as trends. And I do want to say, we also talked about the 2023 Roadmap of Need County Profile. I don't know if you all have seen that. I will send it to you. But when we look at mental health and safety numbers, we rank 73rd out of 100 counties within our suicide rate, 95th for student counselor ratio, 85th for drug and medicine overdose rate, and 100 out of 100 ranking counties for our mental health overall summary. I do fear that if we eliminate these positions, it would worsen our issues. So I do really want you all to consider how we can afford that within our local budget. We talk a lot about being work ready, and these services are vital for having people in our community be work ready when they graduate from high school. So as you consider adding it to the budget, adding it for a year, I know it is a one-year funding, but these are vital for our students and our families. And I know budgets are tight, and there's a lot of issues. We have issues with our system of funding from the statewide down to local. And I welcome you to join me at any time advocating in Raleigh for funding change, because your voice goes a long way. So thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
And I don't want questions like Paula, because I can't answer them. Paula can help me if you have questions.
Well, she's on our school board and liaison, so that's why she's in a little different position. Thank you. With that, that is the last person who has signed up to speak. Lance, do you need to say anything else during this hearing?
No, sir.
Close our public hearing. And with that, we will, that's the end of our agenda, basically. But we will have another meeting this Friday at 9 o'clock here in these chambers. We will be discussing the budget. And with that, we will go to new business. Is there any new business?
No, sir.
With that, we will go to commissioner comments. And Commissioner Barrett, do you have any comments tonight?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for everybody that stuck it out with us tonight. 2 public hearings can make for a long night, so I appreciate you making it to the end. I just want to congratulate all of our graduating students of Rockingham County Schools here. I'll be attending Moorhead and Reidsville this week, so congratulations to them as well as all the high schools around the county. I hope you have a very bright future ahead of you and enjoy your summer. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Richardson.
Thank you very much. Appreciate all you folks. I hope you're out there picking up trash and not putting putting signs in the road right away to turn into confetti. I'd like to recognize Betsy Slayton, who works in social services and has done so for numerous years. Out of respect for her age, I won't mention how many, but she is the lady that has managed a very complex budget that involves state, local, and federal monies. And without her scrupulous coverage of that particular item, we'd be in a lot worse shape. We would be short a lot of people. But if you see Betsy around here, she's very quiet and she kind of stays behind the scenes, but she has done a remarkable job for a long time, and she's been able to do it with a smile. I'm going to ask a rhetorical question of you, Dawn, but I would say it's for everybody. And that question is, when you have a fixed budget or you have a short budget, you have a limitation of any type, you have to make a decision about who gets what. I'm very keen to have these behavioral specialists. I think they're invaluable. I really do. The decision is, who are you going to cut? If you got a fixed budget, who are you going to cut? And that's a much harder question than that. And I would suggest that we all need to do that as we look at our requests, because quite often it does mean establishing priorities that are not very palatable. Thank you much. Appreciate seeing you all.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Berger?
Yes, thank you. Thank everyone for coming out tonight. We certainly appreciate public input and thank those that decide to speak. Yes, congratulations to the graduates. They will have graduation, weather permitting, Thursday and Friday night. Have 2 high schools Thursday night, 2 high schools Friday night. Then want to also congratulate Felissa. It was great to honor her and many of the people that she helped hire. She has left us in really good hands. We really appreciate the hard work and dedication she gave to the citizens and residents of Rockingham County for her career, and wish her nothing but the best moving forward. Lance and his team, we thank you for the budget you have presented to us. We will have a budget meeting this Friday here in this room starting at 9 o'clock, and we'll continue discussions and deliberations and figure out exactly, what we're going to spend the money on and where everything falls. So you're certainly welcome to attend, welcome to tune in. Roy will broadcast that as well. We'll do all we can to make sure that the sound is as good as possible for the people at home during that time. So thank you for coming tonight, and we'll see you Friday.
Commissioner Powell?
So first of all, I'd like to recognize the elected officials here tonight, Paula Rakestraw with our school board, who spoke to us so eloquently. Kimberly McMichael is also on the school board, and Vicki Austin. I believe Ms. Austin is now the chairwoman of the school board, if I heard correctly. Sam Page was with us for a while, our sheriff, and Ophelia Wright is a former school board member and current member of the election board. Just let me say a couple of things real quick that, I know how the budget session works, and everybody wants their piece of the pie and they need some money and all this stuff. But the one person that we can't leave out is the taxpayers in this county. I've been to meetings where there's genuine concern from our older population about how they're going to pay the tax on their homes and how they're going to stay there. And that certainly is a consideration that we have to take into account. And the demographics in our county are such, as I said before, that that makes that a unique challenge sometimes for us in deciding, the tax rate and how we're going to spend the money. I would encourage you to come out on Friday if you have the chance, because there will generally be a much more in-depth conversation about the school system's budget and DSS's budget and the sheriff's budget and everybody else's budget. But there will be an in-depth conversation too about the taxpayers of this county, because we we have to look after them as well and make sure that we don't overburden them with the taxes. And keep in mind that I believe it's about 65% of our budget we have no control over, set by the state. So therefore, there are a lot of parameters that we have to look at and work within when we start trying to satisfy the needs of every department, every person that's dependent on the tax money that comes through the county. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Again, I'll too like to thank everyone who attended tonight, and especially those who spoke. We need to hear your voice, so we appreciate that. Additionally, I'd like to thank Lance and his staff for their work. I'd also like to thank you for this little brochure. I came in early today. I saw Olivia folding them. They're back here on the back as you leave the building tonight. Be sure you take one.
She put that together, so thank her for that.
Thank you, Olivia. So we appreciate that. There's another form with that. I think there still should be some there. Be sure to pick that up. That's some good information. Additionally, the Public Health Department is collecting community input for its community health assessment. And you should be able to find this on our website. They've got, it kind of looks like this. And if you would participate, we would really appreciate it. They do this every few years, and it really affects grants and other things that they can apply for. And it kind of gives us a pulse of the community. So we really need, if you can provide input for that, we would appreciate it. With that, again, I will say our next meeting is Friday at 9 o'clock, and we will be in recess until that time. I don't need a motion to go into recess, do I?
You can declare recess.
All right, we're declaring a recess till Friday morning.